good, but
One of
I
those
guess I
challenging.
need not
Yeah.
not to have the windblown look today. Hi, this is WGSN-DB Going Solar Network Radio, TV and podcast #1 Internet Singles Talk Network. And this is Let's Talk Dating with Christine and Barry. Hi, Barry.
Hi, Christine. We're back again.
Yes, and I'm back in the same state as you now. I had a really fun vacation with my family.
That's wonderful.
Yeah. So I was thinking a lot about this title about how important our looks and in a relationship. And typically, and certainly we will talk about their physical looks. I will tell you one of the things that kept popping up for me that I think is important to you too. It's how they look at me. I love how a man looks at me. I think that's just as it can actually make them even more attractive if they really give me their undivided attention and they have maybe an extra twinkle in their eye because they're looking at me and that looking at me makes them smile. So I just thought I needed to add that extra layer.
We haven't even started. You've added it right at the beginning. But the question I have for you, though, is one of your love languages quality time?
That's 3.
Okay, no, because if your quality, one of your qualities of your love language, sorry, if one of your love languages is quality time, then there's somebody looking at you a certain way will certainly be more aligned to that value, I would suggest.
Yeah, because they're being very present.
Exactly. Yeah,
It's
quality
true.
time. Yeah.
True.
So there.
Because well, good. I mean, I love looking at all the different layers of that because
Yeah.
my number one, they're really close. Words of appreciation and physical touch. They were only like one number off. But if they're so for me, and if they're really looking at me, I like it if they're looking approvingly and happy to be
Yes.
looking. Just looking at me makes me feel that they're paying attention, that
Mhm.
they're interested in what I'm saying. And for me, that can translate partly to the words of appreciation because I know it's really acts of service, but that's really doing stuff for me. Being present with me. Like I sat next to this 20-year-old on the plane coming back who I have to tell you, by the time the 3 hours were up, I said, I have hope for our future because he tells me he has friends that are thinking like he is. And to have somebody just, we're next to each other in the seat and we're both like this was so engaging and fun and interesting and hearing about his lovely girlfriend and his really interesting family and relationship stuff was I felt like I had and he kept saying, gosh, I really like what you say. And I go, I really like what you say. And for me, it tends to move to that next place if I find somebody that's that engaging with me, that really, because, there's times when you talk to people and you can tell they're being nice and maybe you're just being nice and they move on, which is there's nothing wrong with it. But that locked on, I'm interested in what you're saying. I'm interested in finding out more about you feels so first step of connecting for me. So I just, and especially because it's capitalized in looks, I'm like, I have to mention this level. It's
But
not
it's
just that
also,
they have blue eyes and they're 6 feet.
well, there you go. But the thing is, and I would just say this part as well, is that in a sense, what's happening is you're being seen
Mm-hmm.
and not just looked at physically. You're being seen for who you are, which is a big part of this.
Mm-hmm.
And for me, just to sidebar into the love language too, that's one of my top 2 as well. For me, it's quality time, physical touch are my 2 primary love languages. So I understand that feeling and that connection and that depth of openness and vulnerability and intimacy. So absolutely, thumbs up for that.
Yeah.
So getting to the topic from the other angle, which is the initial one.
One of the other definitions, in the dictionary, there can be lots of definitions. So
Exactly.
I want to
Right.
add that definition.
Because the thing is, the title is interesting because it says how important are looks in a relationship, not how important are looks to get into a relationship, which is the
Yeah.
key.
Yeah.
Because and also, I mean, it's pretty clear. And I think this is going to be a pretty clear definition because masculine and feminine are very different. It says that masculine is very visually driven mostly, as in men generally are noticed by what a woman looks like, talking heterosexually. Whereas a woman quite often isn't interested in how a man looks, but she's also interested in how a man feels.
Mm-hmm.
Or how a man makes her feel is another piece. Because I've said this
Mm-hmm.
before that when a woman feels that a man is safe with her, or is protective of her, or is open to her, she feels attracted that way. So I'd say that women generally notice on more one level, whereas men are more simplistic in a sense that we
Yeah.
go, she looks good. So
Am
interesting,
I
you know.
attracted to her?
Exactly, you know, it's the libido thing. So
Mhm.
the initial before the relationship piece, which we're going to talk about once we're in a relationship, but looks, I think, are so key because, and it's true in the dating apps too. I mean, the dating apps, as I said many times before, were designed for men because they're visual pictures. You swipe pictures to see, like almost like you're hunting. I mean, Alison Armstrong talks about that. It's like men are hunters. So the visual stimulation is part of the hunting technique that men employ because it's the way we're wired. And yes, there's more to it than that. But just as the initial, what's the word I'm looking for? Awareness or noticing, is probably a better way of putting it,
Yeah.
is how she looks when she walks in the room. And I've shared this before in I know I talked this before about, you know, being living in LA, lots of beautiful women. I remember seeing a woman who she looked so beautiful when she was standing still. When she moved so ungainly and so not in her body. I was suddenly repulsed by it. So it was not about the looks alone. So looks is not just about physicality necessarily.
Mhm.
And so, like you were saying about on the plane, about how the engagement and that connection and how he looked at you was so attractive, not obviously sexually speaking, just attractive in terms of connection. For me, also, when I see a woman who's attractive, if she owns who she is, that makes her even more beautiful than if she doesn't. So it's not just the physicality, just to be put that on the table. So, okay, get off my soapbox now.
Well, and I will add on to that from the woman's point of view, because the way I have learned that I works best for me is first there has to be nothing off-putting about the man's look. That's just a baseline for me.
Right.
And what I learned with the two people I dated before my husband and then my husband was when I thought I had my looks type and I started looking outside that type, I would never have found my husband if I hadn't done that. So first I have to do, okay, I'm happy looking at them. There's nothing that is a huge distraction that's a thing for me because everybody has their things.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'll circle back and say, when they come, the way they look at me while we're interacting, they seem pleased with how I look. They seem pleased with what I'm saying. So I tease that we sort of are like MRI machines, us women, because we're like, as I'm talking, how are you receiving this? And how do I feel about you receiving it? It's this so cyclical thing that keeps going. And we're just doing this. You're like, oh, she's pretty. And oh, I so want to stick my foot in my mouth. And, you know, if she's so cute, I might not even know what to say. And we're going, how does he feel? And how do I feel? And we're constantly thinking about that. And
Yeah.
the more somebody does that with me, the more attractive my late husband got. And when you talked about when you walk in a room and you see somebody pretty, you know, that's appealing to you, and we notice you noticing, see, there's how he's looking at me, even if it's just at first blush. And then when you're in a relationship, I mean, really, you've been together for a while and they still each other look at each other like, you're my favorite person. I'm so glad you came in the room. I really am excited to see you. I've been coaching somebody. I've mentioned her a couple of times with the interesting things that have happened. And the latest thing was his pattern of work. He can come for 4 days and then he's gone for 3 days. And then the next time he's there for 3 days and gone for 4 days.
Right.
And she said, I need to leave the room when you get ready for work because I really like you all dressed up. And I don't want the process, because usually they're casual when he doesn't go to work. But she figured that out for herself, and we had talked about it. So she went to him and said, this is nothing personal. In fact, you're going to like it better. As you're getting ready the day that you're leaving, I'm going to leave the room and I need you to come out so I can go, oh, isn't that a fun thing they did?
Well,
So
it totally makes sense.
Looking. Yeah.
Yeah. That's the thing is it's funny because, yeah, as men, I mean, just to be transparent. So obviously, when a woman's undressing, the layers are always fun to watch as is more and more revealed. But the other part is interesting is that when a woman gets dressed up, for us, I know for myself, this is definitely true. I remember one of my girlfriends, when we got dressed up, I would see her when she was finished dressing up, not in the process. And frankly, I think I wouldn't have been as impressed, as in awe, as attracted if I'd watched her do the progression from from starting from naked up to that level. So there's definitely something about that shift from one perception to another perception where the attraction, the look, can be so transformative and become much more attractive. So I totally understand how in that relationship that's a smart idea, because it's something very appealing that the two partners can sort of like go away from each other and come back in a whole new presentation and go, wow, sort of thing, Absolutely.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah. And I think women, I don't have a big issue with it. I guess I've had my preference. I'm fine getting ready on my own. I think it's a really good practice to at least do now and then, because one, we usually, I do take longer than any man I've ever been with, except the one gay guy I lived with. He took longer than me. Shocking.
Indeed.
And so you really want to sit there for the whole process? No. And you like me naked. If we're in a relationship and we're naked, you obviously like that. I want to have the yes and then yes. And the in between, it's not that you're not, it's just that's not the thing for you. That I put on eyeliner, or, it's the, okay, love naked body, love whatever now I've put on and made an effort, and I'm now this, because I can feel a little differently when I get fixed up. Because I told you when we were kids, there was play clothes and church clothes and pajamas. So when I get dressed up, that's still that 5-year-old kid goes, we're getting fancy dressed up today. And the whole attitude comes out, and I can be extra sassy about it. And I like showing that to the man. And I get really good reactions pretty much 100% of the time. Lucky me.
Yeah. Well, just flash to a thought for me is about, how it's bad luck for the groom to see the bride before the wedding. There's something about that too, is that when the groom sees the bride, it's at the moment she's at her most bridal. She's done she has the train and she has the veil and all the look. And if she's got people carrying the train with her, it's that whole look. He sees her at that pinnacle. Yeah. If he'd seen all the progression steps to it, it wouldn't be as impressive.
No.
So absolutely, just on any level for us in relationship, to have the joy, excitement, surprise of seeing our partner transformed into this new look is so much more sexy and attractive. So yeah, absolutely, it's genius to do it this way. I mean, we should all be doing this way.
I know. And I'm thinking, it really doesn't have to every time be fancy dress up. It doesn't have to be dressed up clothes. It's just that you were this, and now you're this part of you that's still part of you. And to me, my husband, I noticed from the day I met him how neatly trimmed his beard, his mustache, his hair. And so that was kind of a fun thing to watch happen. And sometimes he let me help, because I'm like, I've never done that before. And the grooming, the attention, the caring, whatever you got, that you're doing the best with what you have, that you care about yourself, and then you care about the other person, so that you take the time Sunday afternoon, laying around, reading the paper, hanging around in bed all day, 5 o'clock shadow. That can be sexy, all about that. And now it's Monday, and we're all going back to whatever we do on Monday, and that you now have I'm going to tidy everything up, and I'm going to pull myself together. So it's not like you're a different person. I like that I can be a few different looks, not a different person, but different looks. So when you think about as a relationship's going on, it can get really easy to just wear both people, same sweats every day, not trim your nose hairs for a week, not shave the parts of the ladies, whatever part we shave or don't, for a whole week. Because when I'm not in a relationship, I still shave every day, because it makes me feel good. I like how it feels putting lotion on. I like how it feels when I put my clothes on. It's nice that I don't have to think about it if somebody's going to be here then because it's already done. I do it for me.
Mm-hmm.
Other people get to benefit. So I think caring about your look is just as important as caring about how your partner looks. Don't you
Yeah.
think?
Yeah, absolutely agree with you. That, and it's fun. I'm looking back at myself and looking at my own journey. I mean, I am lucky enough that I don't have to do quite as much maintenance. Having shaved most off now, it's like it's once a week for now, which just works for me. But the thing is in terms of self-care, I know that, and to be transparent, if I was in a relationship, I was seeing my partner regularly, I probably would up level the quality of self-care I do right now, because I just because most stuff I do is on Zoom. Most stuff I don't have the present need for presentation or showering and stuff as frequently as I probably would otherwise do. So it's a different thing I would do. So yes, there's good things to have as a default pattern, default habits, and also things that we do maybe more frequently when we're in a relationship.
Mm-hmm.
But I want to switch gears because the title is about how important it looks in a relationship.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I know we're talking about that, but that's the thing is, I know one of my early on challenges is that I would be so attracted to a woman initially, but over time, because I got used to how she looked, she wouldn't look as attractive anymore. I will just be transparent. I want to be totally clear about this.
Good to
This is
hear.
yeah, and it may just be me, may not be no other men. I don't know. I don't think I'm the only one. But it was one of the things I had to deal with, was the fact is that I realized early on I was only attracted by how she looked. So when the looks changed, because I got used to and comfortable with them, there was nothing else there. So learning, again, this is very naive, very young at the time, part of my growing experience, learning to have a relationship where the relationship was much more than just the looks, made the looks more inclusive. If it makes sense. The way that she looked physically on those merits alone was great initially, but the looks with who the person was behind the looks, so the way she smiled, the way she spoke, what she was thinking about, how her emotions were, made her looks more attractive on and on, because they will keep evolving then, because it was no longer just two-dimensional picture, it was a three-dimensional person. I think that's a very key part of this conversation about relationships, is that we get to know, and like you were saying before, like how they looked at you. Well, also in relationship, how someone looks at you can be very positive or very negative too. So it definitely is an important part of the relationship.
And I'm so glad you brought up that point, because certainly for me, when I was newly divorced the first time in my early 30s, and really the first time I'd really dated, because I met my first husband when I was 16,
Mm-hmm.
I found that and hadn't thought about it in a while, that, oh, they're so cute and there's all this chemistry. And then you get to know them and you're like, well, there's not enough depth for me, because I even liked having deep conversations then. And it's not a criticism, it's just what I need to sustain. Right. So you think, wow, how much do I need to know, and what sorts of things do I need to know before I get really carried away for both people? Because dessert is not sustaining, even though it's super fun, and you can have a lot of variety in dessert for sure, and accessories and stuff. And then it's the funny thing about, what do you talk about when you get out of bed? Is there enough? And how do you sort out that balance in the beginning? Because it can make your emotions get flat, and it can also make your emotions even get negative if there's not enough substance. And they could still be just as pretty. They didn't lose any weight or gain weight or hair or anything. It's just the sustainable main course of their insides wasn't there, or it deteriorated, because that can happen too. That if people don't individually keep up their inside interest and wanting to learn about themselves and the person they're with and the world, or they have something happen that is a hindrance in their mental or emotional ability, it will take extra effort to stay attracted to their looks, because most human beings really want some of everything. We want a whole buffet in this person. I think it works for me. So to look at, what are the other pieces? I mean, I think you can certainly get better in a sexual relationship especially as you love each other more and you care about each more and you have more leisure time, especially if your kids have grown up now and you know, you don't have to worry about somebody trooping in your room in the middle. And you have to keep up the rest part too, the rest of your emotional and mental and spiritual, if that's part of your practice, with yourselves and with each other. Because
Right.
what I've heard often is, most of the time when somebody will complain about how the other person looks, they want to talk about the weight gain and the hair loss. But then I dig in and it's like, but what were you interested in before? What did you talk about before? And what do you talk about now? We talked about the kids. Now there's no kids to talk about. We don't said, so let's go take a class together. We'll come up with a couple things, and not 100%, but I've had couples who went, oh, they got kind of attractive again. We started doing something interesting again. You know,
Yeah.
I've had them take Tai Chi. I've had them take a language. I've had them take cooking courses, you know, and then you get to feed each other. And then they're like, oh, and the other person sometimes will then feel more inspired to do whatever improvements they might need that they've kind of let go.
Yep.
It's a two-way street though. It's amazing how one person maybe doesn't do anything, the other person's like, oh, I remember this, or this is even better. So
Yeah.
taking responsibility for keeping the spark, I don't know what other word to call it, the
I know.
interest in all levels, which is why I talk about have that business meeting. How's the relationship doing on a real regular basis, once a week, twice a month, once a month at the least. Because then you go, you know, I'm starting to feel, and you own what yours is. And then if I need some help and support from you, because I don't care how beautiful I mean, you look at the people. Okay, the woman that's got my name's getting divorced from Kevin Costner. She's great looking. He's great looking. I'm sure they had tons of chemistry. I don't know, but it seemed to me they would. I'm going to make it up in my head. They're getting divorced. They're getting
Yeah.
divorced.
Hmm.
Not because of their looks, I imagine.
It's something, and it's interesting on that note. First of all, one of the challenges, and I know we're doing with both our clients and our own age as well, is that when people get past 25, 30 years old, things start to change. It's part of the growth and the evolution of life, you know. So adapting to that. So even those would change. That's one of the things about how it's so important about the inner. But I want to just switch back to something I said earlier, just to want to finish a thought I had about when I was young and it would just looks alone. I'm still being single, still noticing women who are attractive, and I enjoy the view and everything else. But what happens for me, and this is totally like behind the scenes in my head, so to speak, when I'm around attractive women, is that I usually notice for myself, I have a process in a way, or a steps that I go through, in the sense that when I first meet someone very attractive, like, cool, keep that person on my radar, sort of thing. But then get to know them a bit better and start learning about them, finding out more about them, and when I start a conversation with them, and especially, I'm sorry to say this, but especially if they have a serious lack of self-awareness, where they're always using, you know, they're always talking about, using second person language all the time, saying like, when you do this, when you do that, and everything else, they don't take ownership. Those little things can be so undermining for me about someone's beauty, just the way it is.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm sure they may find something perfect for them. I'm grateful for that. But I'm also clear for myself that my standards are such, and it's my choice, that a woman who may be attractive, but is only going to be attractive enough for me if these other things are in place as well. And that's part of the journey. So I want to finish up, because I said earlier how I was like, caught up in the looks at the beginning. I still am noticing beautiful women. I mean, it's the way I'm wired. I'm a guy. I'm straight. I know, but it doesn't mean I'm going to go out with them, which is the difference.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm going to find out more about
that's the qualifier.
Yes,
Mm-hmm.
it is the qualifier, exactly. And that's the thing is in relationship. I know it's about to dating, but like you were saying, there's such a reminder, because if people get in a relationship and don't do anything to grow and change, it gets stagnant. So it doesn't matter how good they look. So maybe with Kevin Costner and his wife Christine, there was stagnation in their relationship because things weren't changing and evolving.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not just looks alone, it's the evolution. So doing things like, I mean, even like taking cooking classes together, or salsa dancing together, something where you both do things, or even apart, you bring a freshness back to the relationship, because it changes the look you have for each other.
Mm-hmm.
I know we're expanding the word look to mean more than one thing, but it really is a sense of understanding that relationships are so much more than just looking at somebody's face
and body, for sure.
Yeah.
And I'm so glad you said that, because I've watched this evolution when I used to coach divorced men, because that's all I knew when I first started being a coach.
Yeah.
And the men now that I coach, still a few divorced, mostly widowed men, how the substance, well, look, there's got to be there. It's just there's no way around it. You gotta want to picture us naked and want to make love with us, and
Yeah.
yay! I think it's terrific. I think I'm glad the world's made that way. And you're asking ahead of time for more.
Yeah.
Which is so great, because it also will encourage us women to remember to ask for more.
Absolutely.
To say, let me see how much we have in common in all these other ways besides we're physically attracted to each other. And if you're both having that goal in mind, what kind of conversations will you both be brave enough to have? What kind of activities will you go do to see, how do you lose? How do you win? How do you cooperate? I mean, there's those kinds of things are fascinating, because I've learned so much about myself that I've never had a competitive bone in my body. My brother and sister are super competitive, and I've had a lot of very competitive people in my life, and it was hard on me because they don't understand why I'm not, and they keep trying to convince me that it would be so much better. No, it's not. And I've really learned to own, I love trying new things. I don't even care if I'm not good at it, which floors competitive people a lot. And if you can be patient with me and just teach me and be patient that I'm not going to be good ever, and I'm happy to go with you, and I'm really clear about my limitations, it's so much fun when people can step back, and it makes me go, well, I like them even more, and I like how they look even more, that they're being calm with me, they're being patient with me, that they're listening. Now you go be all competitive with your competitive people, and I'll be the best cheerleader. It's just not me. I'm not that person. So to just have that one thing, I mean, there's lots of things I know about myself and I tell people about them. And this is one thing that's come so clear when I went with my lovely family, who we did stuff that I didn't know if I'd be good at, and I was better than I thought. And they went off and did their faster thing, and then they'd come back and catch up with me, and it was fun. And I used to not like stuff like that because it didn't feel fun. So
Right.
I think it makes me look more attractive, and I think it makes the other people look more attractive to me. So one of the things we've said is to keep learning new things in your relationship about each other and about yourself, and doing things out in the outside world. Well, where is your level of competitiveness? Where is your level of willingness to learn something new? And see in the beginning if that's compatible, and then keep using it in your relationship. Because for me, it's made, if we're just talking about the physical looks part, better for me. 100% better for me. And I married somebody who was so patient with me. I've now trained my family to be really patient with me. And I have so much more fun. And they say they're having more fun with me, because I used to get my feelings hurt and I wouldn't want to play anymore because it wasn't fun to have somebody telling me I was screwing up all the time. Not fun at all.
Well, that's the thing. I mean, to be punished because of who you are is not exactly a very attractive way of being treated. So, yeah, it is. And what I think is lovely is also the fact that you know what your boundaries. So you basically make sure everybody just knows that too. So that way people know how to deal with you, which is a really smart move, frankly. I mean, it's why everybody should do that, you know?
Well, we can only teach as fast as we can, right, Barry? Because we can teach people to do this. I say, if you want to go play golf with me, putting me in charge of the cart.
Yeah.
I bring snacks and drinks, and I'll keep track of your clubs. And because it takes me forever to get to the hole, and everybody gets impatient, especially the people behind us who don't already know and like me. They would if they met me. So just put me in charge of the cart, and I'll go to miniature golf with you. I'll play miniature. But it's pointless to play golf with me. It really is. But I love being outside. I love being in the greens. So if you can figure out who you are and find your people who don't even have to do it the same, but you talk about it, the whole attractive thing gets a chance to go up another level, I think.
Yeah. There's the sense of really accommodating, understanding, because the thing is, one of the great things about being in a relationship is the other person's not the same as you. The other person's different from you. So you get to find out more about what their natural way of doing things are and the way they are and who they are, what they're up to. So when you get to know them, you find the wonderful little things that you didn't actually have yourself. So again, more attractive, looks good, gets you interested. So play with that and be open to learning more about your own way of being, because you're going to get reflected back to yourself what's different about you and about them as well. And I mean, the idea of having someone who will do all the extra pieces that you don't have to worry about, and all you get to do is play with your game, there's kind of a luxury thing in that too. That's pretty
Oh,
attractive.
I know. And I've been told I bring really good snacks and really good beverages.
Yeah,
And
and you
there
be
I
the
am. I'm a waitress. I don't, no, because you're off. Everybody's doing something with their balls, and I do nothing but give food and drink. I mean, it's a nice gig.
sounds like it. Yeah, and you get to be a chauffeur as well. You drive a bit around in the cart. It's great.
You put your little bags on there, and I just follow you around with your clubs. Oh, it's the best. So when you are thinking honestly about looks, what physical things can you do to help yourself feel and look more attractive? And what emotional and mental things can you do where you feel more attractive? And then what can the other person do that you're in relationship with? And if that's as high a priority for both of you, keeping
Right.
your physicality in whatever's the best for you, and that you're staying interested and being honest with what you like to do and don't like to do and how you can compromise. Because I think so often when people stop liking how they look and how the other person looks, in my experience with coaching, I'd say, all right, I'll be generous and give 60% to the physicality. You know, somebody's let themselves go or whatever. It's not 100. And people want to say it's only because they gained weight. It's only because they stopped working out. When we dig in, and the thing is, when you're happier, when you're happier with yourself and with your relationship, you look better. I'm not going to say this happens all the time, but I've sure watched it happen a lot. People lose weight when they're happier. They just do. I mean, new relationships, even newly divorced, which often the person that's asked for it is happier. Everybody loses weight. Everybody does. So would you pay attention that it's because you're being nice to yourself? You did something you really needed to do for a while, that you just automatically feel better, start looking better. And if you really do still love the person in your relationship, it's a really nice thing to do.
This is one of the pivot points that's so key about relationship, because for many people, their lessening of attractiveness oftentimes isn't about the physical weight change or something else. It's because something inside is shifted. And the outward change is absolutely driven by something on the inside. So it is so clear to look deeper than that, because when somebody in relationship gets lazy or lets themselves go, what have they done inside? What have they said inside? What's the rule they made up, or the belief they're carrying, or some sort of other programming that is keeping them from being their best self in a relationship? Because again, ideally, in quotes, a healthy relationship is always two people growing and evolving together. So they're going to be their best selves, the best they can be at any particular moment. Not saying they're going to be perfect, but being the best they can be, meaning that they value themselves, they take care of themselves, they honor themselves, and they value their partners. And so when you stop doing that, what happened? Did you give up? Did you feel like something, you got a resentment because something your partner said or didn't do, and you're now carrying a judgment against them? So now you can take it out on yourself physically because you didn't, get what you wanted. It's like, no. When you get the clue that something's off, it's a good time to have a conversation. That relationship, touch it, check in, meeting, like you said. It's like, have those communications to make sure, well, not to make sure, but to ensure that you can bring your best self to the relationship at all times. Meaning that when stuff isn't working, you say, this isn't working. Let's talk about this. Let's resolve it. Let's figure it out. I mean, and this I'm talking about now is absolutely what I believe, but I was so not on my radar 30 years ago, just to be clear.
Mine either.
Yeah. So this is part of the journey. And it's like, we learn about relationship and we learn about being better partners. And it is an education that's ongoing for us. I mean, even for us now, we're learning as we teach, and we learn along the way ourselves. We're not saying we're done with this by any means. No.
We keep learning all the time too, so that we can teach even more. And it's interesting too, because I've talked to so many couples that have been happily, majority of the time, happily married for 40, 50, 60 plus years. And they frequently talk about, I just love looking at them. I love waking up with them. I love how they look forever.
Hmm.
I don't I don't see changes a lot, men will say, and they certainly don't see negative changes. There's nothing that's gotten bad or worse. They almost always say they're more beautiful than the day I met them. And I know they mean, because I ask them separate sometimes. It's not like she's standing there and he's going to hurt her. Mm-mm. They
Hmm.
mean it 100%. And
Yeah.
it's when I ask those couples, they've grown together, they've done things together, they've overcome horrendous to minor things that made them even more solidly locked into, I like you a lot. I love who you are. I love that you've got my back. And I
Hmm.
love just looking at you across the breakfast table. And I love the sparkle in your eyes and the way that your hair's changed over the years and your skin has changed and your body has changed over the years. I hear that all the time. And sadly, not everybody is going to believe that. And I'm going to tell you, I've heard it enough that I believe it 100%. And you're a guy and
Yeah.
you'll go, yeah, men feel this way, because women are the ones who often don't believe it. I've gotten a couple insecure men about their bodies lately, which has been kind of interesting because it seems to come from a different direction than the
Hmm.
men or than the women's. But just go, if we like you in clothes, we're very high probability we're going to like you naked. If we
It's good to
keep
know.
going out with you in
Reassuring.
clothes, what's going to be the problem when you don't have clothes on? I mean, that's the thing I keep impressing on people.
Yeah. It's interesting that we have this way of looking at each other and we presume things because of how they're dressed, that we sometimes wonder, and I mean, things, let's be clear, for men, as I said earlier, we are fantasizing, visualizing that what she looks like is not, without those things on. So we hopefully aren't disappointed because we start setting up fantasies for ourselves. But the other part of this is key is, there is no perfect look. Let's be clear about that too. There are preferences definitely in certain things. And it's interesting I was having a conversation with a friend of mine recently, and we were talking about what looks we're attracted to, and realized, we have certain types that we like, certain qualities, certain colorings, height, those sort of things come into play. But the recognition is that everyone's different. And so what everyone thinks is attractive and what looks great is different. So if anybody's listening to this and going, well, I don't think I look right, it's like, that's an assumption you're making, because maybe the people who you thought were looking for you weren't the ones you want to be with anyway.
No.
So make sure you get
So
clear.
you mentioned something that I thought, okay, I'm going to ask you a little more about it. So what is the part that you're concerned you might be disappointed, because that was the word that you used,
When I was talking about when I looked at a woman and how she's dressed,
and how she might look not dressed? Because it's our
because
fear, women. I need you to say it out loud.
I know.
Sorry.
Well, no, the thing is, I mean, well, let me say it this way: having, and I'm sure everyone's watching the Instagram, the filters and the TikTok stuff and all those other things, is there's so much that can be done to make an appearance more incredible than it really is, that it's nice to see the person as they really are. So, ladies, when you go on dates, don't overdo the makeup. Let a man see you. Yes, accentuate and decorate who you are, but don't obliterate who you are by makeup.
I really needed you to say that, Barry. I
Yeah.
really needed you to say that. Yeah, because we think we have to do all these fake things to our bodies in clothes in order to entice you. And yes, please put your best foot forward. Wear things that are the most flattering.
Hmm.
And if they're going to like your body, they're going to like your body. So let them see what your body looks like in clothes,
Yes.
so that they'll know generally what your body's going to look like without clothes. See, that's what makes us worry as women, because we've had men that have gone, and it's generally not 100. It's because we kind of faked it
Hmm.
when we were in clothes. And I want us to think we're as beautiful as we really are in clothes. So like go to a personal shopper and see if they can help you find something that is more flattering than you think you can do on your own.
Mhm.
And don't do all the push up and shove over to the max. A little, it's okay, a little cleavage is good. But if you have a little more to you, I talk to so many men who like that. They like putting their hand on your tummy. They like that they can hold onto your butt. That's when they like that, they like that. And so they might pass you up because they're like, well, I'm just saying.
Well, the other part also for us, for men as well, is they see a woman who's perfected in how she looks because she's so pushed in, squeezed up, as you said, like pushed up and when shoved over.
Shoved over.
is the fact that oftentimes a man will look at her and go, "She's too good for me. I can't have her." So we doubt it because men aren't perfect either. We doubt ourselves as well, saying just to be clear. And so when a woman is being attractive, yes, and it doesn't mean like slit skirts and like backless dresses, that sort of thing. It's about attractive. And the thing is, so it's been said for a long time. It's like men are attracted to the mystery. So it's not about a woman being like so overtly naked. It's like no, it's the way that she hides herself in a way that is sexy and attractive and intriguing that is what gets her interest. So how a woman looks oftentimes isn't what she shows, it's what she doesn't show that makes her attractive. So keep that in mind as well.
Whether you're getting ready to look, whether you're starting a new relationship, whether you've been in a long-term relationship, that is such amazing, wonderful advice. And it's so appreciate you saying it out loud for all the men who feel this way and all the women that are like, really?
Yeah.
Really? Yes, really. I needed you to say it, and I knew I was putting you on the spot, but you gave me that opening, and I knew you would do a good job.
Well, you're welcome. And that's why we work so well together.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, I think so too. Because I'm like, I'm going to be daring, and I know he'll just be fine with my question. And the answer was fabulous. Thank you. So, if you're having insecurities about your looks or you're wondering how to get it back with your relationship, because there really are some, as you've heard, some important steps that you just don't even know. It's not that you wouldn't want to do it if you don't know what you don't know. Come ask Barry or I, because we know. We've done it the other way before.
Oh, yes, indeed we have.
So if you'd like to get a hold of me, it's the best way is through my website, which is www.theperfectcatch.com. And you can click on what's holding you back from love and have a complimentary conversation with me. You can also click to join my mailing list. You can send me a personal email at Christine, Christine, at theperfectcatch.com. You can also find me on all my social media places. So on Facebook and LinkedIn and Twitter and Pinterest, you can find either Christine Baumgartner or The Perfect Catch. And then in YouTube, it's Coach Christine Baumgartner. And on YouTube, it's at Coach Christine Baumgartner. And on Instagram, it's Coach Christine Baumgartner. I should just write them down, huh?
It might be easier. Yeah, it's a lot of different.
And we'll just go off to Barry, who's going to just go, this is how you get to me.
Well, I'll keep it simple. It was even simpler until Instagram changed things on me.
I know. Yeah.
So the best way to reach me is my website, which is barryselby.com. I've managed, even though I'm looking at rebranding some of my marketing, my name is always going to be my name. So that's why I kept my site as my name. So barryselby.com is my site. On the homepage of my site, you can click on the link at the top to set up a mini session with me to get test drive my skills and my work. And I get to see if you're the person I want to work with as well, just to be transparent. At the bottom of the home screen, you can click in there to join my email list, where I send out emails every week, which include replays of the show and other things I'm offering as well. And other things I get to do and talk about outside of the show. If you want to get more help, you definitely reach out to me and drop me an email. Send an email to barry@barryselby.com. And on all social media platforms, I'm Barry Selby. So Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, Pinterest, Clubhouse, now Threads, and of course YouTube. I'm Barry Selby, and on Instagram is the only one that's different, which is the real Barry Selby. So basically, find me on all platforms as Barry Selby. Instagram is the real Barry Selby, and follow me what I'm doing. And if you're watching my social media the last couple of days, I've been posting some really cute little modern dating jokes just to spice up the conversation a bit. So
yeah.
On my posts.
I've been having fun with them. And I just remembered, because I was just with my web designer, she put all my links on my website.
Nice.
I know, you just click on the little bird to go to Twitter. I know, I forgot that. So I don't have to be complicated anymore. Just go
No,
to
you
my
don't.
website and you can click on all my links. I
Perfect.
forgot that. It's so new. So we are here every single week. You can watch us live and you can also watch us recorded on all the social media platforms. We're on Apple and Spotify and Roku. And we are here every week live and 1 o'clock on Thursdays and Thursdays at 1 o'clock Pacific time, 4
Yeah.
o'clock Eastern time, and all the times in between. So please watch, share, comment, ask us questions about what we said, suggest subjects for next time, share it with your friends that are having dating or relationships challenges. We would be so excited if you would do one or all of those things.
And if you find our advice is valuable, use it. That's what we do it for. We share it to help you get better relationships. That's what we're doing this for.
And tell us what you did and what worked. If something
Exactly.
didn't work, tell us that too. We're okay with that. We'll come
Yep.
up with another idea.
So with that, we'll see you again next week.
Bye for now.